Hi everyone, this is Josh, back on Crypto Mondays Green, Crypto Green podcast, and I've got some very exciting news today. We're in the middle of Austria, in the middle of nowhere, somewhere, but we are somewhere very important because right behind me, there's been how many hectares? There's been a lot of reforestation through Baumbuddy and tree planting. And this is all connected to Web3, blockchain, and sustainability. And it's an exciting way forward for forests, for biodiversity, and to address and to adapt to climate change. With me today, I have an amazing guy who's the creator of this Baumbuddy project, Stefan. And Stefan is also the founder of a very successful software company called Cybertree. And he's taken his time and his interest in saving the planet to do this non-for-profit project and this biodiversity project, Baumbuddy. We also have, as you know, on Crypto Green, we have surprise co-hosts. And I am super excited today to invite my friend Paul Makalaka from the African Blockchain Youth Association. He is an executive director or executive researcher, executive and senior researcher at the Blockchain and Climate Institute. He's also a fellow at DEA, the Digital Euro Association. He's well known, and he not only is well known in all these different areas, he has a great new book that just came out on this topic called "Could Blockchain Be the Catalyst for Addressing Climate Change Adaptation in Africa?" So here we are to talk about climate change adaptation. We're all over the world. We've got Africa, we've got Europe, we've got the USA. That's what crypto Web3 blockchain is. We're here to talk and jump into this really interesting conversation with these two guys. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks very much, Josh, for that wonderful introduction.
Hi, Josh.
Yeah.
Hi, Paul.
And we have one more guest today. We have a second surprise co-host, and our surprise co-host is Baumbuddy. Hey, Baumbuddy. As you know, in Crypto Green, we have different characters that might come in. We might have Monkey Sauce. We might have Gatorade. We might have ludicrous speed that's going to help us along with the conversation. So if I call in a different character to help with the conversation, you'll know it when it happens. Other than that, we have a new character today, which is Baumbuddy. And what is Baumbuddy going to do? Baumbuddy is going to come in when we're talking about practical applications to solve the climate crisis and to address the climate crisis. So we're calling in Baumbuddy today, and then Baumbuddy will be featured throughout future Crypto Green podcasts. All right, let's get in with the questions here. Could blockchain be the catalyst for addressing climate change adaptation in Africa? That is an amazing topic. You can buy the book on Amazon, I think. Other than that, you can find the direct link on our website. That's a really good question. Climate change adaptation. Let's start with that, gentlemen. How do we adapt to the climate change? What's the best way?
In my opinion,
go ahead.
the best way to do something, so it's depending on each region. It's not you can't scale it on the major side to each country. So you have to understand there are different places, different climate as well, and also in Austria. So we started here. It was the beginning, also from Baumbuddy. And we were thinking about, so the people before and the citizen start to building the spruce. It's a tree. And depending on the climate change, the climate goes warmer. The spruce are not really resistant against the situation. And the little bugs came into the bark of each tree and eat them up. And there are also drunkenness and some major issues. And you see it around Central Europe and perhaps also in Austria, that the spruce is a very good tree. But even more, you can't use them right now for this climate. So this was based how we set it up, Baumbuddy. And we thought about how can we do that on a transparent way, also to combine our major topic from our business side. And we decided to do it for the public as well and make this non-profit organization in the second step.
Great. So what you're saying, Stefan, is that the best way to adapt to climate change is to identify what changes are happening. For example, the spruce trees and the other biological elements, flora and fauna, being affected. How are they going to be affected? And then how can we counteract that with an active approach to, for example, tree planting or building biodiversity, things like that. So he's looking at also connecting his private company to this in the interests of this, to where you can, one, finance the future with climate change adaptation and technology while having technology services and innovating in that area, which is a kind of a cool thing, but he's obviously focused on this, making it public and putting it into the community sphere to where we can raise awareness and consciousness. And that's his solution to the adaptation. Paul, tell me more about that. Adaptation, baby.
Yeah. So basically, I would start by saying that as far as I'm concerned, there is no magic bullet that can be used to address climate change issues. It has to be, concerted efforts from different methodologies, from different efforts, doing different things. And especially in the context of Africa, climate finance will play a very, very crucial role in terms of, this effort that all of us are trying to make. And one of the key issues in terms of climate finance has been the issue of transparency. So that, when funds are given out, the donors want to be, or the financiers want to be confident that whatever project the money was issued out to, that it's going to do that which was intended to. So that is now where now blockchain comes in, because this is one of those technologies that can actually, now bring a lot of transparency within the climate finance space, so that we start having increased climate finance flows, because we really need a lot of finances to deal with the climate change, and this money is needed like yesterday. So if there is any technology that can try to help to bring transparency within the climate finance, that now would have a net result of encouraging more people to put money into this pool, into this fund.
Okay, good. All right. Now I love this.
That would be a
so
big
now
plus.
What Paul's saying is that he's saying the finance is really important, and we need a lot of finance to address these issues, not only to do the things like Stefan is doing, self-financing, but actually a concerted effort, Paul mentioned, across the world with many different actors. But then Paul also identified something that is not only contextual relevant in Africa, but around the world, is about the transparency, is about the potential for corruption, is about the potential for greenwashing. And so when we talk about greenwashing, we always have to bring in Elephant Turd. Elephant Turd comes in and is going to talk about greenwashing and make some good sounds about Elephant Turd, because we know the only thing bigger in the jungle than bullshit is Elephant Turd. And so when we look at the corruption that's going on with the green energy and green environment, I think both Paul and Stefan are in a great position to talk about that, because they're both attacking these things. Now, but wait a second. When you talk about blockchain, okay, Bounty, be okay. Don't worry. I think Baumbuddy's getting a little bit nervous because I'm about to introduce our sponsor. Okay. Okay, I'm about to introduce our sponsor. But before that, I wanted to before that, I wanted to address this issue of blockchain transparency and using these tools. Now, blockchain is kind of an internet technology, and does anybody know how can trees access the internet? They log on. They log on. You don't get it. He's Austrian. He doesn't get jokes. Tree, log.
Yeah.
They log on.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, okay. But that's not the question I'm going to ask you, actually. I'm asking you, so Paul talks about blockchain as a way to mitigate the corruption, mitigate the misunderstandings, and increase the level of transparency, verifiability, accountability, all these kind of nice big words. How is that done in practice with Baumbuddy? So basically, I'm going to tell you about Baumbuddy. It's going to be, it's basically planting trees, and they have a metaverse project, NFT project. It's a cartoon that brings in kids. It's a story, and you can find all that about that at baumbuddy.org. And Baum is a German word for tree, so it's tree buddy. Okay, and I know it looks like Groot, but it's not Groot. It's Baumbuddy. Okay, get it?
It's
Baumbuddy.
cute.
It's cute.
Yes.
Not Groot. Okay. Now, not only that, he had the copyright before anybody else. So it's Baumbuddy, baumbuddy.org. But how does planting trees? You know what? Somebody told me a couple weeks ago, hey, I planted 100 trees. I said, oh yeah, really? Nice. Where? They're like, in Kentucky. I'm like, oh yeah, where in Kentucky? And they're like, in Louisville. I'm like, okay. So you know what? But there's no evidence. So how do you address, how does blockchain help out Baumbuddy and all this stuff what Paul was talking about?
Yeah, this is the next step. So first of all, we are audited by the TÜV Nord. It's a really strict audit company, and this is important also for each of anybody who want to join Baumbuddy. So they always have the proof that we do what we say, and each tree will be there in a data source, and you can see everything.
So it's certified through a third-party governmental organization?
It's a private company, the TÜV Nord, but it's a kind of SGS or DEKRA or Intertek, so it's a really high standard. And the next step is to build up a blockchain with the trees as well. And it's even not only to count them, it's also to see what is happen in the next future with the trees, and to validate our work. This is important. And also,
so the blockchain is how you validate work independently of a third party, or including the third parties?
No, now this is proven by the TÜV Nord. This is the third party. But when we are in the blockchain, each and everybody can prove it and see the fields, what we are doing, see the satellite data. So Baumbuddy goes space tech. So we are connecting to Copernicus right now for Europe projects. And you will see it growing. And the next step is also to do that with drones and with LiDAR technology to implement that and make the audits on the fields. So we are not the owner of the fields. We come to some people who probably receive a forest for free from the former generation, but that's okay. If you don't want to do or she something in the forest, we do that for you. But the reason is also, and it's a major important thing, we will choose an agreement. For 55 years, you are not allowed to pull out any wood of it. And this is important. And we, Baumbuddy, will audit that. So we pay you a climate stable mixed forest at the end.
Climate stable mixed forest, 55-year investment in the land without taking away the resources, and then this is controlled by Baumbuddy, which is self-controlled through video, drones, third-party interactions, but I'm not really seeing the value or the necessity of blockchain here. Help me out, guys. Why do you need blockchain for any of that?
For Baumbuddy.
For Baumbuddy what? To live on the blockchain?
No, it's a secure method also for other people, and we want to scale it up. It's not even the way to do that in Austria or Central Europe.
Okay.
We have to split it. So the first thought of Baumbuddy was we have to find a solution. So there was some scams as well with planting trees, and Baumbuddy is science-based. We planting trees is not planting trees. Planting tree means you have to check the soil, the weather, the climate. You have to think about what will happen in 55 years or more.
Right,
Yeah.
or more. Right. Well, I want to get to that,
Yes.
and also connect that to the financing aspect. But Paul, what would you say is the relevance of the blockchain and the necessity of using blockchain-based solutions like what he's doing?
So let me put it this way. Traditionally, the way we have, we have, for example, in Kenya or in Africa, we have funded, planting of trees. Is that, for example, you start a project for planting trees, and then you solicit for, for people to finance the project. Then once you have planted the trees, and probably that's the end of it, we never hear anything else about it. And if somebody, for example, if they wanted to specifically see where the trees are, it would be a very tedious, and sometimes you would find that probably the trees do not even exist, or even if they existed, they were cut down, and there is no way of even, in fact, even verifying. So those are some of the challenges that we have with the traditional models. So now, what blockchain can do, let me just give you a scenario. Let's say, for example, you plant 100 trees, and those 100 trees, you geotag them. So once you geotag them, the signals can be picked from anywhere, whereby, for example, you can use an oracle that will pick that information, put it in a blockchain. And the beauty is that the moment you put it in a blockchain, then it becomes easy to verify, number one. And then number two, it becomes difficult to manipulate it or change it. So that, for example, if you planted 100 trees, you cannot now change and say that we planted 1,000 trees and make a claim for 1,000 trees. And this is very crucial, especially in within carbon markets, whereby, for example, you may want to, claim carbon credits for such a project. Yeah. So you find that if this information cannot be verifiable, and this information can easily be manipulated, and if you look at, for example, today, the carbon markets, it's one of the most bureaucratic, one of the markets where we have a lot of, manipulations, and, things are not very clear. So this is the value that, blockchain could bring into a space like that.
Okay, great. I'm going to call in another character now, Ludicrous Speed. And Paul, I'm going to ask you in very, very quick 30 seconds to explain to us what is the carbon market for our audience that doesn't understand.
Now, carbon markets, just like any other marketplace, like for finance, for bonds, for commodities, carbon market is a market where people trade on carbon credits, so that carbon credits become like the product, whereby if I've done a project and I want to claim carbon credits on it, I can, I can generate the certificate and be able to trade that certificate to sell it. Let's say, for an example, an organization that wants to, to do something that would, would give them good ratings in terms of, climate change, then they would buy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's carbon trading in ways that the government wants to limit the amount of carbon, so they've made it they're trying to incentivize people to do that. Now, it just sounds weird to me. The banks wanting to kind of somehow help the environment. Now, what did the tree do when it left the bank? It started a new branch. So, okay. So, again, I don't know. I'm trying to get one of these Austrians or these Germans to laugh, but it's hard, So tell me, the banks are involved and the finances involved now. When you have carbon credits, you have a lot of information that's either, like Paul said, manipulated or never comes to the surface, and you basically have this in relation to tree planting and in many other ways. Tell me, man, before we get to that, in every episode we have a new fake sponsor, and today our sponsor, I just like to say, and usually the sponsor is someone that's kind of against what we're doing, because as we know, a lot of oil companies and a lot of people that are involved in actually destroying the environment make it seem like they're not. So we always have a fake sponsor. And today's fake sponsor...
It's okay. It's okay.
Today's fake sponsor is the logging companies. Because the logging companies want to make sure that they cut down all the trees. It's okay, Baumbuddy. So Baumbuddy's a little nervous, but it's going to be okay. There's no gas in this chainsaw. Oh, okay. No, there is gas. But don't worry, Baumbuddy. I won't turn it on. But anyways, not only does blockchain address some of the issues that these guys are talking about, but it also, think about the cutting down of trees for paper. And this is what an early thing that I noticed with... so the logging companies, thank you very much. Go cut down some more trees and destroy the environment so we can have useless paper that we don't even need. Thanks, guys. Oh, shit. Okay, now feel free to laugh. I know, it's okay. All right, so now talking about these banks and things like that, so we're talking about the big dogs, okay? But Paul, he's a researcher, he's an expert in the area. He runs the African Youth Blockchain Association, and here we got Stefan. He's an individual guy out here. He's got a small team. It's not his main business, but he's taking it on in his life. These guys are underdogs. So we're gonna call an underdog to talk about the underdogs. Are we working, now let's talk about finance now. I've just ruined the opportunity for sponsorship from big companies. But that's okay. Banks, big money is necessary. Paul said that at the beginning, but it's not here. The underdogs are fighting the good fight, and a lot of them are on our show. So come to see our show if you want to see the underdogs, like Baumbuddy. All right? It's okay. The chainsaw's gone, Baumbuddy. Now, how can we get the money? How can we get the finance to solve these problems from these big banks and these other people? What's going on in this situation? I heard that there's unlimited money for climate change and sustainability and stuff like that. Why do you say we need money and finance? And how is blockchain going to help that? This is an open question.
Paul?
Okay. Now, like when you read climate finance flow reports, you will understand that, for example, it was estimated that every year we require about 100 billion USD just to to help, especially those countries that are most vulnerable to fight climate change. Now, but if you look at in terms of the climate finance flows, it is way below that what is required annually.
You said 100
Yeah?
billion?
So that means that, yes,
Okay.
at least 100 billion annually is required. And one of the things that probably, blockchain can excel, and actually we were having a discussion in another forum about crowdfunding. Now, crowdfunding is one of those innovative ways that I think blockchain can enable as those novel ways to raise financing for climate. And the reason why I say this is that, for example, if you look at Africa, for instance, Africa has the most youthful population in the world. And it is estimated that, by 2030, Africa will provide will be the biggest supplier of labor, because of the very large youthful population. So the kind of narrative that, for example, with our organization, we are trying to do is that with these young people, we are trying to tell them that, look, for many years now, we've been waiting on government. We've been waiting on politicians to do stuff for us. But what if we change this? What if we have a paradigm shift whereby instead of waiting for government to, for example, to be on the front line of the fight against climate change, what if we did this ourselves? What if we empowered ourselves? And I'll just give an example. Let's say, for example, we build a DAO.
A DAO.
Yes, a DAO. A DAO is for those, probably for the, for our audience who've never heard of this, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization that exists on a blockchain network, and it does not depend on central authority in terms of governance. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what you say is we need to take matters into our own hands. We can't rely on the big banks. We can't rely on the logging companies and the oil companies, and we can't rely on even the governments, because there's a lot of issues in there. Paul's saying we can take matters in our own hands, and one way we can do that is through a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization that's a self-governing body of different individuals. Continue.
Yes. So with the DAO, let's say, for example, if we have a membership of, let's say, 1 million members in a DAO, and we say that for this 1 million members, let's each contribute, let's say, $50, that's $5 or $50. So if we do $50 for 1 million members, that's a cool 50 million without breaking a bank, without depending on IMF, without depending on any of these, big corporations. And with that 50 million, we can say that, for example, we are going to fund, let's say, 100 projects from within this community doing different things to tackle issues of climate change.
Okay, man, that's really super interesting, because that connects exactly with what he's saying.
Yeah, but I also think climate change is a big topic, and it has to fulfill also from Baumbuddy. And another big topic is also, in my opinion, and from our team, is to protect the environment. And you have to start and build it up with the age when you go to school as a child. You get in contact with a new world. You learning some things, and also a major topic should be to protect and think about direction what you are doing to protect the climate as well and your environment. And so we create this funny character, and there's also a story behind, and we want to build it up, this saga. And
what about the DAOs? Do you see what Paul's saying with the DAOs? I mean, yeah, I get it that we, and I think the next generation is pretty plugged in to this environmental crisis. You got, Greta Van Thunberg running around saying, we're all going to die, we're all going to die. And, they're very plugged in and, very militant even in some ways, which is could be a good thing. You're taking a positive angle and saying we need to bring in the kids to say, hey, it's part of our value system. It's part of humanity. It's part of being human to be part of this. And you got this really cool character. Yeah, I mean, you got a storyline and you got cartoon, you got NFT stuff. He's got all kind of cool stuff going on. But what about the adult stuff like the DAO? What Paul's talking about? Is this independent, or the crowdfunding? Is this independent organization type of system that we find really important in Web3? Is this going to be the crucial key that with the blockchain technology to actually bring projects like this forward and actually protect the environment?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so what do you think about the connecting with institutions or connecting with governments and having them as collaborators? I mean, you're talking about independent, we got to do it ourselves. At what stage does the institution, the government, and my friends, the logging companies, actually come in and say, yes, we want to really not just make profit and make a bunch of money for our friends, we want to also protect and improve the environment? When, at your stage, when does it come into the broader sphere of people that are trying to approach this issue?
So for us, there's also the law side for a DAO, and this is also
the legal side of the DAO.
The legal side, yes. and but we are going to do that. We want to build this DAO and to increase also the decision rights, the voting rights, and from the people who trust us, and this is important.
But that's what's kind of Paul's talking about.
Yeah.
But isn't that a problem? You know what I mean? I mean, when people want centralized control and they want to keep centralized control, and even if they say it's decentralized, the community can make certain decisions. Do you see that? You see the issue?
You need a body, yes. So
a buddy, like a Baumbuddy?
A
body.
A body, yes,
institutional body.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have your boundaries where you can go. So
okay, but
there's a direction. And,
okay, but you think that the governments will be happy to support DAOs and say, okay, people, power to the people. Go ahead, let's make all of our finance transparent. Paul, how is it over there in Africa? They're very idealistic here in Austria. They got
Yes.
And the government is involved in a lot of stuff here.
Just to take us back to what I had said earlier, is that when it comes to to the issues of climate change, it cannot be won by one single entity. It has to be a concerted effort. And when I was bringing in the aspect of DAO, I did not necessarily mean that we're only doing this through the DAO. What I'm saying is, as citizens, as private citizens, we should not feel helpless. We should not feel like there's nothing we can do. That, for example, if the government is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or if the big corporations are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, that now for us, we can just sit back and wait on them, or we can just sit back and continue crying. So for me, I would like, let's have a paradigm shift whereby we say that, for example, and we know the government, the way they are structured, these are bureaucratic institutions. So and in most cases, they would not work. They would not work at the speed with which we may want. Yes. So those are things that we have to appreciate. The way the governments are wired, they are wired to be very, very bureaucratic. But what we can say that as we wait for them to do their bit, as we wait for them to put up a regulatory environment, as we wait for the other organization to build the standards, at the same time, we can also be doing other things through DAOs. We can also be doing other things through, Baumbuddies. We can all be doing, stuff. So that's what I mean.
I see, exactly. So we don't want to wait for the governments. We know that they're going to act at some point and in some way, but there's no reason to wait because the immediacy, the importance of this crisis is way too huge. Now, about kids, you mentioned kids. And Baumbuddy is obviously targeted towards kids my age, you know, in their teenage 40s, and he laughed, an Austrian. We did it. We did it. You're also a teenage 30s guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Okay. And you know, Paul, you know, he never ages. You know, he's one of those guys. You know, so Paul's eternal. Now, but kids is cool because Paul is the founder and director of the African Blockchain Youth Association. Okay. And this is a great organization that's empowering African youth in many countries to actually learn about blockchain and build careers in this direction. So Paul's doing great work, not only with his climate book and the Climate Blockchain Institute work, but also with the African Blockchain Youth Association. What do you think, based on your experience, Paul? What's the sentiment over there and I'm talking not just in Kenya where you're at, but in the African countries that you kind of are familiar with and represent in that way. What's the sentiment amongst the youth about all this stuff that we're talking about?
I think one of the biggest things that we are lacking in this part of the world is, mentorship and a sense of direction.
And what?
And mentorship and a sense of direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and this I'm saying that because a lot of these young people have been looking up to politicians or their leaders to show them the way or to give them direction. And of course that has not happened, and that is not going to happen, and basically because we know who politicians are. Politicians are the same across over. They probably, the only difference is that they come in different varieties, but a politician is a politician. So one of the reasons why Africa Blockchain Youth Ambassador exists is that they say that when you want to change a society, you start with the mind, and there is no better place than to change society than to start with the youthful people, with the young people, because these are young minds that are not yet polluted, that are not yet structured or wired in specific ways. These are young minds who are very open to new ideas, to new innovations, to new ways of thinking. So we are really happy that we are trying to introduce this, just to let them know that, look, as young people, we do not have to look like we are helpless. There's something we can do on our own, so that we don't have to wait on any particular quarters or institution or any specific people to do for us things. We can start off this conversation, and especially given the fact that climate change issues affect our future. And these young people, they really need to, we really need to orient them to start thinking about their future. Because if we do not think about, our future well-being, then we don't have a future at all. So that is why it is very, very crucial for us, and it is very, very central to involve, the young minds. And I'm really excited that even, Baumbuddies are making this, to be very kids friendly, so that, because if we can start to nurture them at that early age, to think positively about the climate, how the potential that, for example, technologies can be used to enhance this. I think this is, we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Amazing.
We try to catch them in a young age.
And then they will become the youth ambassadors, which is his African blockchain youth ambassadors. Sorry, I said association earlier, but the ambassadors, that's where they become the ambassadors for change. Because as Paul said, the ambassadors in the political realm are missing somehow. And as he said, there's a lot of different colors, but they are the same core in essence. In essence. Now, now you agree fully with kind of what Paul was saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Full line. Yes.
And then, but getting them nurtured right now is like, okay, 20 years from now or 10 years from now, but we are kind of in an immediate crisis, you know, so an immediate crisis. How does planting trees help solve the immediate crisis? Because Paul was saying, man, this is one of many, you know, big important things. How does it help the immediate crisis?
Yeah, it nudged the people to think about their environment.
Nudges.
And, nudges. Yeah. And there's also a major thing, you increase the biodiversity on these fields.
Right.
And we teach the people to do that. And you can do it everywhere. In your garden, it can't be only the forest or something like that.
I live in a city. I don't have my own garden.
You have a balcony, but you can also do that on the balcony. And we are trying to develop. And for the city kids, we have a special program.
The hills are alive with the sound of bullshit. Because you know what? We can't all do that. And one, we don't have the skills or the time or the capacity or the interest. Now, but at the same time, we should. Right? At the same time, I should have something on my balcony that lives more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At the same time, I should be involved. But you know, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of interest. And you know, where does the incentivization mechanism come in? And I also want you to address this this idea of the long-term and what did you say? Climate
Stable.
Climate stable
mixed forest.
Climate stable mixed forest. I want to address the climate stable mixed forest and pull Paul in on that because I'm sure he talks about that in his book. But you know, where does blockchain Web3 come in with the incentivizing people to act? Because that's what I want to know. If they act now for planting trees and creating biodiversity, that's all good. But I need to have some incentive to do that. You know.
Yeah, this is in our area. This is the money, and you want to have something back, and this is the reason why some projects are starting with carbon credit systems as well. But in the European Union, it's not allowed to do that. So you can do that, but it's not approved by the European government. It's not for your carbon credit system, so you can do it. Yeah.
So how can these DAOs, for example, so we talk about the finance, we talk about the gap in finance, we talk about our friends, the logging companies that are probably not going to finance our initiatives, but they are going to finance lobbying for the governments to prevent these kind of initiatives from expanding. Paul's answer is taking matters into our own hands in mass numbers, even with small amounts of finance. He talked about contributing $5, $50, and if you have 1 million people, that's $50 million that you have then to fight this good fight. What does blockchain and Web3 do to incentivize people and to actually take action on the environment and create some of these long-term solutions like climate stable forests? Anybody?
Okay, please, Paul.
Go ahead.
So what it does is that they create an infrastructure that enables individuals or community to come together on the internet, online, without being limited by borders, without being limited by different social classes, different cultures, different backgrounds, so that they create a platform whereby people from all over the world can actually mobilize themselves and build communities, so that through these communities, for example, they can undertake crowdfunding, and through this crowdfunding, they can fund some of these projects. Yeah. So that is what now blockchain and Web3 is doing. People need to be educated on the importance of, on the importance of issues to do with climate change, so that even as we do these other big things, but at an individual level, there is something we can still do, to help address the issues of climate change. And then, of course, we need to address the issue of course, that now has to leave to the politicians, to the government, to the organizations like, United Nations, UNEP, and the likes. They can address those issues of policy and regulation. And of course, we also need to bring in the big corporations and start having discussions around things like circular economy, because that is the direction that we need to go.
Circular economy.
So that even at the corporate level, when we produce products, it should be in such a way that it promotes circular economy, things that can easily be recycled, so that along the value chain of production, we do not waste anything. Because as we stand today, our production system are very wasteful in nature, the way they have been structured. So those are things that we need to discuss. And then, of course, at the, when it comes to banking and finance sector, we need to start talking about things like regenerative finance. We need to restructure capitalism so that we start talking of something like sustainable capitalism, because capitalism in itself is not a bad concept. It is that hijack capitalism and turn to something else. We need to, how we are not just looking at capitalism. We need to start looking at what we call stakeholder capitalism.
Yeah.
Stakeholder capitalism. So you're having a little bit of audio problems, man. So I'm just going to kind of repeat what you said a little bit. So what Paul's addressing is education broadly. So not only that people can make collective decisions, more intelligently and with better information, but also that they can their individual consciousness can be raised, and their individual ability of knowledge of what they can do to attract this. And then he said at a macro level, we need to change from this old capitalistic structure that just basically, Baumbuddy, are you okay? That basically just takes from the environment and look at circular economy, regenerative finance, and then macro level solutions that are going to address this issue with not only a shareholder capitalism, but switching that to a stakeholder capitalism, recognizing that there are many, many stakeholders in the economies and also the environment and biodiversity. Maybe you could even consider a stakeholder in that way. I don't know if you would agree with that, Paul, but
what we are doing also is to force this stakeholder capitalism, not
Make
only
sure you speak
with
loud enough, because he can
not
only hear
to increase the benefit for them, but even more, there's also the opportunity to engage them and pull them, and this is also a social impact for everyone in this whole structure. And you name it, it's stakeholder capitalism. It's the middle of the far right capitalism poor, or the socialism on the left. So it's the middle, but it's working, and I hope it will grow up also in the people's mind, that you have the responsibility for your team, for the environment, and this is a whole thing what we are serving for in our life.
Yeah,
and you know what? I like the idea of. Did you have something else to say?
No, I think that was it. Though I would also add, for example, to streamline, for example, like carbon markets, and that is one area that I think technology can really help to streamline that, so that we start, we start avoiding, a lot of greenwashing in that sector.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paul, you got a PhD?
No. I only have a master's, but I'll be starting that soon.
Okay. I got a PhD, and that stands for post hole digger. So I can dig. I'm going to dig me up a tree today. We're going to have that on the thing. But also having a PhD helps me to recognize not only bullshit, but elephant turds. And the thing is that the PhD teaches you what goes in is what comes out of the research. So when you talk about streamlining carbon credits and stuff like that, I'm a bit wary of that because of how the data is collected, what data is collected, and then how the data is then represented, distributed, and interpreted. And so my critical PhD mind is on right now. But also unfortunately, I see that Baumbuddy, it looks a little bit tired. So what do trees do when they're tired?
They support each other with friends, and this is the mycelium. We speak about that.
Is that what trees do when they're tired?
You mean
I thought they go for rest.
they sleep? No,
They
trees
take a
never
break.
sleep.
They take
go
a
for
The
break.
rest.
lung of
This
our
guy doesn't get a single joke, guys. I mean, come on. I would like to say thank you very much to Forrest, who is our video editor and key comedian here. Although Stefan is trying to take his place. Yeah. What do trees do when they go to sleep? Well, they go find their friends and they go have a party. Is that, you know what? That's the silliest thing I ever heard. Baumbuddy, what do you think of that? Anyways, what we do need is we need crazy people, and those are many Austrians, to help us change the...
Oh no!
Finally, I get the guy to laugh. Okay, we need
every time.
as Paul knows, we need everybody on board. Paul said this every time.
Yeah.
We need everybody working together in collaboration. So when we make connections like this, you can reach out to either Paul or Stefan. You can find them. They're going to say how you can with their best way for you to either contact him. But the main way I would say is to get involved and try to understand what the situation is, because both of these guys seem to know what the situation is before they try to create a solution. A lot of people in blockchain or Web3 are creating the solutions that have no problem. They're trying to find a problem for their solution. But these guys are doing it different. Paul's a researcher, well-known researcher. He's got a book out. It's about adaptation, and it's about Africa. So if you really care about Africa, go get his book and actually learn what the situation is from the people on the ground who are the experts there, and then make your solution for Africa to save all the flora and fauna in Africa. What they've done with Baumbuddy is he's looked at, hey, the first point is the degradation of the environment, and he's got 4 key points about this. He looked at the trees. He looked at the sap. We don't get time today to talk about mycelium, but he looked at mushrooms and how they grow and how they create the biodiversity there. And he's got a plan, step by step, to actually make this happen. But he had to learn and really identify clearly the problem before he tried to make the solution. And as you can see, Baumbuddy is a pretty cool solution. And so I'm going to let you guys just say how people can get to know more or get involved if they're interested in either supporting Africa blockchain youth ambassadors or Baumbuddy. Go ahead, Paul. Why don't you go ahead and start and tell them how we can find out more about your organization and support it.
Yeah, so I'm usually, especially very active on LinkedIn. So I've left a link on the chat. So you can just search Paul Makolaka. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Our website is abia.africa. So if you went to that site, you'd be able to reach us. You can call us. You can send us an email.
abya.africa.
Yes,
Is that right?
ABYA.Africa. Yeah, that is the link for our website.
Great. Okay, and then you'll find if you're interested in his book and supporting this movement in Africa, you can actually just buy the book, and that actually helps a lot because you're showing that this is a key area of interest. And there will be a link in the description of this video. How about Baumbuddy?
Yes, come to our website baumbuddy.org, get in contact, and yeah, we are happy. Each of us don't stay in the first row, so we are a shared team.
Okay.
And this is beautiful. So we need you. Start planting trees.
Start planting trees. We're going to start right now with Baumbuddy. There's going to be a little bit of a fun video after this where we are actually doing that with our friend. Thanks, guys, for coming in. We love Crypto Mondays. We thank you all for coming and helping us focus on this very important topic. So I want to thank you to Paul Makalaka and also Stefan Stanak for coming today in this beautiful place in Austria. We're going to go have some fun right now. Thanks a lot, guys. All right. What's on Monday? Crypto Mondays. All right. See you guys later. Ciao.